Okay, so we've got a whole stack of notes here about, well, the stuff that trips businesses up when they're trying to scale.
Yeah.
And you seem really, really interested in this whole high-performing team thing.
It's fascinating stuff.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're diving deep today into Kevin Brent's presentation on this program he calls Smart 90.
Smart 90.
Yeah, get ready, because we're going to try to figure out why so few businesses actually manage to scale successfully. What's the science behind teams that just work, those teams where everything clicks, and how maybe, just maybe, your leadership style is actually impacting your team's performance in ways you haven't even thought about.
Right. It's not just about having the right strategy.
No.
It's about what you do with it. Execution, execution, execution.
That's where the rubber meets the road, right?
Exactly.
It's like having a Ferrari but not knowing how to drive a stick shift.
Right.
You're just stuck. So Brent, he throws out this stat that just stopped me in my tracks. Less than 10% of businesses really bridge the gap between strategy and execution.
Wow, that's really low.
You would think that those two things would just naturally go hand in hand.
You'd think so.
No.
Apparently not. And McKinsey's research actually backs that up. The companies that can do both, strategize and then actually put those strategies into action,
Yeah.
they just blow everyone else out of the water when it comes to performance.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But if it's so important, why is everybody tripping up? I mean, it's not like people are setting out to fail, right?
No, definitely not.
So what's the deal?
Well, Brent actually pinpoints 5 major culprits.
Okay.
Number 1, getting pulled back into those day-to-day operations.
Oh, yeah.
I think we've all been there, right?
The daily grind.
Exactly. And then there's lead generation,
Always need more leads.
always.
Yeah.
Never enough. And attracting and keeping the right people, because let's face it, your team can make or break you.
Absolutely.
Then there's giving those people the power to actually own their work.
Yeah.
You don't want them to just feel like cogs in the machine.
Yeah.
Right. You want them to feel empowered.
Yeah.
And lastly, staying on track with the plan, which, let me tell you,
Easier said than done.
it's so easy to drift off course when things get chaotic.
Oof. That's a lot to juggle. I'm feeling overwhelmed just hearing you list all that.
Right.
And that's not even my business.
Yeah.
But there's this other thing Brent talks about that I think is really, really key here, and that's the shift from a founder-driven business
Yeah.
to a founder-inspired business.
Oh, very different.
And he says only 4% of businesses successfully make that leap.
4%. Wow.
That's a little scary, right?
It is a bit dire, yeah.
So what's the difference there?
Well, think about it. When your business is small, it's all you. You're the founder, you're calling all the shots. But as you grow,
Yeah.
you just can't be in everything, right?
No.
So it becomes less about you directly controlling every little thing
Right.
and more about your vision guiding this team that you've empowered to take the ball and run with it.
Oh, okay. So it's like that letting go stage.
Exactly.
Trusting your team to execute your vision without you having to micromanage every step.
Right.
I can't imagine that's easy, especially for founders who are used to, having their hands in everything.
It's a really hard transition for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It requires a fundamental shift in mindset.
And that's where so many companies stumble.
It is. And this is where Brent brings in this fascinating model from Dr. Tariq Joma called the 4 C's.
Okay.
And get this, it was actually developed by studying those high-performance motorsports teams.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Isn't it?
Taking inspiration from the racetrack and applying it to the boardroom.
Exactly.
I like it. All right, so spill the beans. What are these magical 4 C's?
All right. So think of them as the foundation, the cornerstones of any team that is just firing on all cylinders, really working well. First up, you got clarity. And this isn't just some vague mission statement we're talking about here.
Right.
This is laser-focused roles, responsibilities, and everyone knowing exactly who's accountable for what. Everyone knows exactly what they're supposed to do. They know who they answer to. They know what they own. No ambiguity, no stepping on toes.
Got it. So clarity equals no chaos.
Pretty much.
Especially when you've got a team that's growing fast. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, what's next?
Okay, C number 2, consolidation.
Consolidation.
Now, this isn't just about everybody getting along.
Right.
Although, that does help.
It does help.
But it's about this deeper alignment under a shared vision and mission.
Yeah.
Like that feeling of purpose that Daniel Pink always talks about.
Yeah.
That intrinsic motivation that comes from knowing that your work actually matters.
It's that feeling of like, we're all in this together, right?
Yes.
It's not just clocking in and clocking out. It's like you're part of something bigger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And without that, well, you just got a group of individuals. You don't have a real team. Now, C number 3. This one always throws people off. Collaboration.
Collaboration, okay.
Yeah. And the reason it throws people off is it's not about being best friends with your colleagues.
Oh, thank goodness.
Right.
Because I don't need another bestie. I have enough already.
Exactly. This is about how effectively the team works together.
Yeah.
Even when personalities clash, even when there's a little friction,
Right.
It's that ability to communicate openly, respect each other's expertise, and just, help each other out.
Yeah.
Even when it's not technically your job,
Yeah, because the reality is you're not always going to love everybody you work with, right? But you still got to function as a team.
Absolutely.
Okay, hit me with that final C.
All right. The 4th C is consistency.
Yeah.
And this isn't just about having a good week here or there.
Right.
This is about delivering that reliable performance against your goals week in, week out.
Yeah.
It's about building those habits that make that happen. High-performing teams, they don't just get lucky. They got that consistency baked right into their DNA.
So tying this back to that strategy versus execution thing, it kind of feels like some of these C's fall more on the planning side and some more on the doing side.
You're picking up what I'm putting down. You're right. Clarity and consolidation, those feel more strategic. While consistency and collaboration, those are about making things happen. But the big point here is you need all 4 to truly bridge that gap that Brent was talking about.
Right.
If even one of those C's is weak,
Yeah.
the whole team can start to wobble.
It's like a table with 4 legs. You knock one out, and the whole thing's in danger of collapsing.
Exactly.
So we got our 4 C's.
We do.
But how does all of this relate back to leadership styles? Is there a connection there?
Brent certainly thinks so. And this is where it gets really interesting. He brings in this thing called the DISC personality profiling model.
Okay.
You've probably heard of it. It basically categorizes people into these 4 main types. You got your dominance types, influence types, steadiness, and conscientiousness.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of DISC, but I'm sure some of our listeners might not be familiar with it. So can you give us like a super quick rundown of what each of those types is like?
Sure. So your dominance types, they are the go-getters. They are driven, assertive, all about results.
Right.
They're often the ones leading the charge, pushing everyone forward.
It makes sense.
Influence types, they're all about connection. They're outgoing, enthusiastic, really good at persuading people, building relationships, and just getting everybody excited.
Okay.
Then you got your steadiness types. They're the reliable ones, patient, supportive. They're the ones who create this sense of harmony, this sense of stability within a group.
Yeah.
And finally, the conscientiousness types.
Yeah.
They're all about the details.
Oh, yeah.
Super analytical, detail-oriented.
Right.
They want everything done right, and they want it done right every time.
Yeah, I can see how all those different personalities would show up in teams. So how do these DISC types connect back to that 4 C's model? I mean, is there a link between, somebody's personality and how they approach teamwork?
Brent says there is, and this is what has these big implications for how a business can actually scale.
Okay.
He points out that founders, the people who start these businesses,
Yeah.
they often skew heavily towards the D&I types.
The dominance and the influence?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're the visionaries. They're the ones that get everybody pumped up. They're the ones with the drive to get things going in the first place.
That makes sense. It takes a certain kind of personality to actually launch a business in the first place.
Absolutely.
You need that bold, action-oriented energy.
Right.
But how does that play out as that business starts to grow?
Well, that's where things can get a little tricky.
Oh, okay.
Because while your D's and S are amazing at, setting the direction, getting everybody on board, they might not naturally gravitate towards the more collaborative, detail-oriented aspects of actually building that high-performing team.
So like a D-type leader, for example. They might be amazing at like setting goals and expectations, but they might struggle with letting go of that control and, empowering their team to actually take ownership.
Common struggle.
And then an I-type leader, they're fantastic at, getting everyone rallied around that shared vision.
Totally.
But they might have a harder time staying focused on like the nitty-gritty details.
The details, yeah.
And ensuring that consistency over the long haul.
Right.
And we need all 4 C's.
You need all 4, yeah.
So if a leadership team is like packed with D's and E, they might need to be extra mindful of those other 2 C's, collaboration and consistency.
Absolutely.
Which brings us back to those 90-day rhythms that Brent keeps talking about.
Yes.
This is where he introduces his Smart 90 program as the solution.
Right. And what's so interesting about his approach is the why behind that 90-day time frame.
Okay.
It's not just some random number he pulled out of a hat. It's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between challenge and manageability.
Yeah.
You know, 90 days is long enough to actually tackle some significant projects, but it's short enough to keep everyone focused and, be able to adapt if things change.
Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to see why that time frame is so important. Like, I'm a big believer in setting goals,
Yeah.
but I've also learned that if you set them too far out, it's so easy to lose that momentum.
Oh, yeah.
But then if they're too short term, you might not accomplish anything truly meaningful. It's about finding that balance.
Absolutely. And Brent actually brings up this British study that looked at exercise habits.
Oh, okay.
And they had these 3 groups of people. They had a control group, they had a motivated group,
Okay.
and then they had an action plan group.
I am intrigued. Tell me more.
So the control group, they just track their exercise. The motivated group, they got all these pep talks about the benefits of exercise,
Right.
like why it's good for you and all that.
Yeah.
But the action plan group,
Yeah.
they actually sat down and wrote out this specific plan.
Yeah.
They outlined when they would exercise, where they would exercise, for the following week.
Oh, okay.
So tell me, what do you think the results were?
All right, let's see. In the control group and the motivated group, I'm guessing like maybe 50% of people exercise at least once a week.
Not even close.
Oh, really?
It was way lower. Only about 35% in both of those groups.
Wow.
But in the action plan group,
Yeah.
a whopping 91% of those people exercised at least once a week.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know.
Just having that concrete plan made that much of a difference.
It's pretty amazing. It really shows the power of planning and commitment.
Yeah.
And it actually ties into another study that Brent talks about by Dr. Gail Matthews. This one's all about goal setting. And basically, people who write down their goals, they're significantly more likely to actually achieve them.
Right.
But here's the kicker.
Yeah.
If you take those written goals and share them with an accountability partner,
Oh, yeah.
and then you give them regular updates on your progress,
Okay.
your likelihood of success just skyrockets.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about willpower. It's about creating like an actual structure for success.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the Smart 90 program aims to do.
Okay.
It's a framework for bridging that gap
I like it.
between wanting something to happen and then actually making it happen consistently.
All right, you got me hooked. Let's dive into the Smart 90 system.
Let's do it.
How does it work? What are like the core components?
All right, so there are 3 main pillars to the whole system.
Okay.
First, you got these quarterly focus sessions.
Okay.
And these are dedicated times for the entire team
Yeah.
to step back from the day-to-day, assess where they're at, set their priorities, and then collaboratively create that plan for the next 90 days.
So it's kind of like a mini strategic planning session,
Yeah,
but with a shorter time frame and a real focus on action.
exactly. And this goes back to all that science we were just talking about.
Right.
You write down your goals, you discuss them with other people,
Yeah.
you make that shared commitment, you're setting yourself up for success.
It's combining that big picture strategic thinking with the nitty-gritty of execution.
Exactly.
I like it. Okay, what's element number 2?
Element number 2 is recording and cascading those plans and actions.
Okay.
So you take those priorities that
Hmm.
you came up with in your quarterly focus session,
Right?
and you turn them into specific plans and actions that everybody on the team understands.
So it's not just like, hey, we need to increase sales. It's like, okay, Sarah's team is going to focus on this market segment, and they're going to use these specific strategies.
You got it.
Yeah.
And they actually use software for this called Rhythm 90 to document all of this, assign ownership, set those deadlines, and break those big, hairy goals down into manageable chunks.
Okay, so it's like a digital project management system,
Pretty much, yeah.
tailor-made for this 90-day rhythm.
Exactly.
I can see that being super useful for keeping everybody on the same page and making sure nothing slips through the cracks.
It's all about clarity.
Yeah. All right. So we got the big picture planning, then we break it down into those concrete actions. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
The final piece is building those accountability habits through updates.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it all comes together.
Okay.
It's all about those regular check-ins to track progress, to address any challenges that pop up, maintain focus, and just, cultivate this culture of accountability and support.
So it's about building that consistent rhythm, right?
Yes.
This of checking in, reviewing progress, making adjustments as you go.
Exactly. And the Smart 90 system, it actually emphasizes weekly check-ins.
Oh, wow.
They call them Smart 7s.
Okay.
And these are times for team members to report on their progress, talk about any roadblocks they're hitting,
Yeah.
and it just creates this constant feedback loop. That's so crucial for keeping everybody on track and feeling supported.
So those Smart Sevens, it's about more than just checking
Oh,
boxes.
way more.
It's an opportunity to connect, to collaborate, and to reinforce that feeling of shared responsibility.
Absolutely. And it goes back to that science of achievement we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that exercise study?
Yeah.
The action plan group. They were so successful because they had that regular reminder,
Yeah.
that commitment. These Smart Sevens serve a similar purpose.
Okay. Yeah.
They keep those goals front and center.
Yeah.
They create that space for accountability. And they help the team maintain that focus, that momentum.
So the Smart 90 program, it's not just about the 90-day rhythm.
Right.
It's about weaving all 4 of those C's into the actual fabric of how the team operates.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's about giving them the tools and the support
Yeah.
to make that happen consistently. So, we were talking about those Smart 90 components.
Yeah.
I think it's worth unpacking those a little bit further. We touched on the quarterly focus sessions,
Mm-hmm.
but what's really cool about those is it's not just about the leadership team coming up with a strategy. It's really about tapping into the collective intelligence of the whole team.
Oh, yeah. It's like a brain trust.
Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Get everybody in a room, share insights and perspectives. I can see how that would be so much more powerful than just having, like, the people at the top dictate the plan.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And it ties back to those 4 C's, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're building clarity by defining those priorities together.
Right.
And you're creating that sense of ownership over the plan, so you're getting that consolidation.
So you're like baking the 4 C's right into the process itself.
Exactly.
I like it.
So then the next step is taking all those big, those big picture ideas
Yeah.
and breaking them down into those bite-sized actions.
Right.
That's where that Rhythm 90 software comes in.
Right. Okay.
It's like this superpowered to-do list, but for your whole team. But what makes it really special is it's not just assigning tasks. It's about creating this visual roadmap that
Yeah.
everyone can actually see and follow.
Oh, okay. So you can like visualize it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a very visual person, so I get that.
You do.
There's something powerful about seeing the plan laid out, knowing where you fit in, what you need to do.
Totally.
It makes it so much clearer.
And it eliminates that ambiguity that can just, kill momentum.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone knows what they're responsible for, what the deadlines are, and how their piece fits into that big picture.
Keeps everybody accountable too, right?
Oh, yeah.
No more hiding in the shadows.
Yep.
If you're not pulling your weight, it's going to be pretty obvious.
It's transparent. Which brings us back to those Smart Sevens, those weekly check-ins.
Yes.
They're not just about reporting progress. They're about
Yeah.
creating this space, this container for really honest, open communication.
This is where that collaboration C really comes in, right?
Big time.
Yeah.
It's about sharing those challenges,
Yeah.
offering support, working together to find solutions. It's like that real team spirit.
It's that camaraderie.
Yes.
The problem solving together.
It is. And it just naturally built in that consistency.
Yeah.
Having that regular rhythm.
Yeah.
It keeps everybody on track, focused on those goals. I'm curious, what do you think about the psychology of those check-ins? Do you think there's something to that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's something really powerful about having that regular accountability. Like, it keeps those goals front of mind. And research shows that that's so important for actually achieving them. It's almost like having like a personal trainer for your business goals.
Right.
They're not going to let you slack off.
They're going to keep you on track.
Exactly.
But, it's not about punishment or anything like that. It's about having that supportive structure that helps people actually stay motivated.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So the Smart 90 program really seems like it covers all those bases,
It does.
The strategy side, the execution side, that human element with the check-ins. But it can't be all sunshine and rainbows, right?
Well, no system is perfect, right?
Right.
I think one of the biggest challenges with something like this is getting everyone on board,
Oh, yeah.
especially if you've got a team that's really resistant to change.
Yeah, change is hard,
It is.
especially in those companies that have been around for a while. People get used to doing things a certain way.
You get stuck in their routines.
Right. So how do you overcome that?
Well, I think the key is communication and involvement.
Okay.
Don't just spring this on people and expect them to love it right away.
Yeah.
Involve them in the process from the very beginning. Explain why you're making this change. Talk about the benefits both for the company and for them personally.
Yeah, make them feel like they're part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, this isn't about just laying down a new set of rules.
Right.
It's about creating a system that empowers everybody to do their best work.
It's shifting that mindset from, I have to do this, to this is going to help me succeed.
Exactly.
But even with buy-in,
Yeah.
there's still the challenge of keeping that consistency going,
But
right?
for sure.
Like, it's easy to let those quarterly focus sessions slide,
Yeah.
or to get a little lax about those check-ins when things get busy.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
I think the key here is making it non-negotiable.
Yeah.
It has to be part of how the team works.
It's like brushing your teeth.
Right.
You don't
Really.
skip it just because you're tired.
Exactly.
Or you're running late. It's just what you do.
It's a habit.
Yeah.
And that takes commitment, especially from leadership.
Right.
And it can't just be lip service. They have to actually walk the walk.
Lead by example.
Exactly.
It makes such a difference when the team sees that leadership is truly bought in.
It does.
Okay, so, we've been talking about Smart 90 as this, framework.
Yeah.
But are there any situations where it might not be a good fit? I mean, every business is different. Every team is different.
You're absolutely right. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, right?
Right.
Smart 90 might not be the right fit for companies that are super early stage.
Okay.
The ones that are still trying to figure out what their business model even is.
So if you're still in that pivot phase,
Exactly.
it's not the time.
This might not be the right time to implement something this structured.
Right.
And it also might not be the best fit for companies that are operating in these really volatile,
Yeah.
unpredictable environments
Right.
where you have to be able to make decisions really, really quickly.
Agility is key.
Agility is key. Exactly.
Got it. But I think the core principles of Smart 90, the
Yeah.
4 Cs, that 90-day rhythm, that focus on clarity, consolidation, collaboration, consistency, I feel like that stuff's pretty universally applicable.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
It's just a matter of adapting the specific tactics
Right.
to fit your unique context.
Yeah. Your unique situation.
Exactly.
It's like, it's a roadmap, not a GPS. It gives you the general direction, but you got to navigate the actual terrain.
I love that. And that's where that self-awareness piece comes in, right?
Right.
Leaders have to really understand their team, their industry, all of the different circumstances to figure out how to apply these principles effectively.
It's about being adaptable,
Yes.
willing to experiment.
Experiment. What works for one team might not work for another, and that's okay.
Exactly. So for our listener who's thinking about, okay, this Smart 90 thing sounds pretty good, where should they start?
Well, I'd say the first thing is do your research. Don't just jump in blind.
Right.
Read up on the program. Familiarize yourself with that 4Cs model.
Okay.
And really think about how those concepts apply to your business specifically.
Yeah, don't just try to copy and paste what someone else is doing.
Right.
Take the time to understand the underlying principles and then, like you said, adapt them
Tailor them.
to your own needs.
Exactly. And, don't be afraid to reach out to Kevin Brent or his team.
Oh, yeah, they're the experts.
They are. They can provide some really good guidance as you're starting out on this journey.
Yeah, it's always helpful to have a guide, especially when you're going into uncharted territory. But even with the best guidance in the world, this is still going to take effort.
Oh, for sure. It takes work. It takes commitment.
What would you say to that listener who might be feeling a little overwhelmed? Like, oh my gosh, change.
Well, I'd remind them that change is rarely easy,
No, it's not.
but it's usually necessary for growth.
Yeah,
And the payoff, the rewards can be huge.
absolutely.
And, building a high-performing team, it's not just about the bottom line. It's about creating a work environment where everyone feels fulfilled.
Right. It's about that work-life balance, that fulfillment.
Yeah.
It's about making it a place where people feel valued and empowered and actually, excited to come to work.
Inspired.
Inspired, yes.
That's the word.
And that's something worth striving for. It is. Even if it means, getting a little uncomfortable,
Yeah.
stepping outside that comfort zone, trying something new.
You got to embrace the new.
Embrace the new. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the practical stuff with Smart 90, but I want to bring it back to something that I think is really important, and that's the human element.
Right.
At the end of the day, business, it's about people.
Right.
It's about relationships and trust and creating that shared purpose. Connection, yeah. And that brings us back to leadership.
It does.
How can leaders use all of this to build a team that's not just productive,
Right.
but also engaged,
Yes.
fulfilled?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
I think it starts with understanding that leadership, it's not about control.
No.
It's about empowerment.
Empowerment.
Giving people the space to take risks, experiment, really bring their unique talents to the table.
Right.
And recognizing that everyone has something valuable to offer.
Yes.
It's about tapping into that, into all that.
That collective intelligence,
Yeah,
you're making
yeah.
people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And that's where the Smart 90 program can be such a powerful tool, right?
Yeah.
It gives you the structure, the framework for creating that kind of environment. But it's up to the leaders to really bring it to life, to
Right.
create that spark that gets everybody excited and working towards something great.
So it's about being more than just a manager. It's about being a leader who inspires, motivates, empowers.
Yes. Yes and yes.
Exactly.
And, this brings up another point that I think is so important.
Okay.
We get so caught up in the day-to-day of building a business
Oh, yeah.
that we forget to celebrate the wins.
Oh, that's so true.
It's so easy to get focused on that next goal, that next deadline.
Right. And you're just constantly moving.
Exactly. But celebrating wins, both big and small, it's so important. It's about keeping morale high, creating that sense of accomplishment,
Mm.
and it just keeps that momentum going.
It reminds everybody why they're on this journey in the first place.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy, you know?
Yeah.
It could be a team lunch, a handwritten note, a shout out in a meeting.
Yeah.
It's the thought that counts.
It's about making people feel appreciated
Exactly.
and creating a culture where, you're not just expecting success, you're
Mm.
actually celebrating it when it happens.
Got it. So we've been talking a lot about Smart 90
Yeah.
and, the different components.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember this is just one tool.
Right.
It's not the only way to build a high-performing team.
It's a framework.
It's a framework that's worked for a lot of people.
Mm.
And like we were talking about, it's adaptable.
Right.
You can take those core principles, apply them in a way that makes sense for you.
Exactly.
But there's another element that we haven't really touched on yet. And I think it's crucial for success. And that's self-leadership.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
We've been talking about leadership in the context of teams.
Yes.
But what about leading yourself?
So important. It's often overlooked, but it's really the foundation of everything.
Right.
You can't inspire other people if you're not inspired yourself.
Right. It's like that oxygen mask on an airplane, right?
Yes.
You got to put yours on first before you can help anyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Self-leadership is about taking ownership. It's about taking ownership of your own growth, your own development,
Okay.
your well-being. It's about setting those personal goals, holding yourself to the same standards that you expect of your team.
It's about being a role model, not just in what you say, but in what you do.
100%. And it's about having the courage to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
to admit when you're struggling, to ask for support.
It's okay to ask for help.
It's okay.
Yeah, we're not superhuman.
No. And it's about taking care of yourself,
Oh, yeah.
physically, mentally,
Right. Self-care.
self-care. You can't pour from an empty cup.
That's so true. It's not selfish. It's actually essential for being your best self,
Absolutely.
both personally and as a leader.
And you know what? It sets a good example for the team.
Oh, yeah.
When they see you prioritizing your own well-being,
Right.
it gives them permission to do the same.
Yeah, it creates that culture of self-care, which ultimately benefits everyone.
It does.
So how can leaders, they're busy, they got a million things on their plate.
Right.
How can they develop those self-leadership skills?
Well, I think it starts with self-awareness.
Okay.
Take some time to really reflect on your strengths, your weaknesses,
Right.
your values, your goals. What are you passionate about?
Yeah, what motivates you?
What do you want to achieve, both personally and professionally?
It's about getting to know yourself,
Know yourself.
both the good and the bad.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. And once you have that understanding,
Yeah.
you can start to put together a plan for growth.
Yeah, be proactive about it.
Proactive.
So that might involve setting some personal goals.
Yes.
Maybe finding a mentor, taking a class, reading a book.
Absolutely.
Or maybe it's just making that conscious effort to try something new, get outside that comfort zone.
Get uncomfortable.
Yes.
Push yourself.
Exactly.
And be patient with yourself. It's a journey.
It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Exactly. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have challenges, but keep learning, keep growing.
Embrace the process.
Embrace the process.
Enjoy the ride.
Yes. Now, we've been talking a lot about building team dynamics.
Right.
I want to touch on something that I think is really relevant for anybody trying to scale a business, and that's delegation.
Ah, yes, the art of letting go.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things for leaders to do.
It really is. Especially founders, entrepreneurs,
Oh, yeah.
they're used to doing everything themselves.
Control freaks.
Yeah. It's hard to let go. It's hard to trust other people to handle the important stuff.
It is. It requires a real shift in mindset.
Yeah, it does. It's about going from like doing to
Yep.
leading.
Exactly.
It's recognizing that your time is best spent on those high-level things, the strategic thinking,
Yeah.
and then empowering your team to handle the day-to-day stuff.
Exactly. But it's not just about dumping all that stuff on people.
No.
You got to set them up for success.
Okay, yeah. How do you do that?
Clear instructions, clear expectations, provide support, guidance along the way.
So you're not just saying, here, do this.
No, exactly. It's about trust.
Okay.
Give them the space to make decisions, to
Yeah.
solve problems,
Right.
and to make mistakes.
Oh, and mistakes.
Mistakes happen,
Yeah.
especially when people are trying something new.
Yeah.
But you have to view those as learning opportunities,
Yeah.
not failures.
It's all about the growth mindset, right?
It is.
So for our listener who's maybe struggling with this, you know,
Yeah.
they're like, ugh, I just have to control everything. How can they start to let go?
I would say first step, identify those tasks that only you can do.
Okay.
What are your unique strengths?
Yeah.
What do you bring to the table that nobody else does?
It's about focusing on your zone of genius. Yeah.
Yes. And then for everything else,
Yeah.
start thinking, okay, who on my team could handle this?
Right.
Who's ready to step up? Who's eager to learn?
Right.
Who wants more responsibility?
Yeah. It's about investing in your team, giving them a chance to develop their skills.
Exactly. And once you've delegated something, here's the hard part.
Oh, yeah.
Resist that urge to micromanage.
Oh, that's tough. But it's so important.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Trust your team, give them space, offer support when they need it, but let them do their thing.
And if they make a mistake,
Yeah,
it's a learning opportunity,
exactly.
not a crisis.
No. It's all about creating that culture of learning
Right.
where everybody feels like they can contribute, they can grow.
You know, we've talked about a lot, but I want to bring it back to something we touched on earlier, and that's the importance of having that shared sense of purpose.
Ah, yes.
It's something Kevin Brent talks about a lot.
He does.
And it's something I really, really believe in. It's so essential for building a team that can actually achieve great things.
Absolutely.
But how do you actually do that?
Right.
How do you create that thing?
It's not easy, but I think it starts with defining your why.
Okay, the why.
Why does your business exist? What are you trying to solve?
What impact do you want to make on the world?
Exactly. It has to be bigger than just making money.
Right. It's got to be a mission that everybody can get behind.
Absolutely. And you have to communicate that
Communicate it clearly.
clearly and consistently
Mhm.
to your team.
Right. And not just like put it up on the wall and forget about it.
Yeah.
It's got to be something that everybody lives and breathes.
It's the culture. It's how you operate.
Yeah.
And it's about helping people connect their work to that bigger purpose.
Yeah. Like, how are they making a difference?
Exactly.
Yeah. So they can see that their work actually matters.
It matters. And then celebrate those successes.
Yeah.
Celebrate. When people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves,
Yeah.
they're way more likely to be engaged, motivated, committed,
I feel that sense of belonging.
belonging.
That shared purpose. We all want that.
We all do. Now, we've been really focused on the internal stuff, the team dynamics, but I do want to acknowledge that there's external factors too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's not just about what's happening inside the company. It's the economy, the market, the competition,
The world is changing all the time, and you got to be ready to adapt.
adaptability.
Yes.
That's where it's at, being able to pivot, adjust course when you need to.
And that's one of the things that I love about that Smart 90 program.
Yeah.
It's built for that, right?
It is, that 90-day rhythm. It gives you that space to reassess, to adjust, to stay ahead of the curve.
It's about being nimble, not rigid.
Nimble. Love it.
Yeah, embracing change as an opportunity, not something to be afraid of.
Exactly. It's that growth mindset.
Mm.
View those challenges as opportunities to learn, to get better.
Yeah,
And that's what makes the difference.
it does. So we've covered a lot today.
Yeah.
A lot of information. What are some key takeaways
Right.
that our listener can actually use?
Okay, so for our listener who's thinking, all right, this sounds great, I'm ready, what do I do?
What's step one?
Step one, have that conversation with your team about the 4 C's.
Okay.
Explain the model,
Right.
talk about how it applies to your specific business.
Get their input.
Get their input. Make it a dialogue.
Yes.
Then schedule that first quarterly focus session.
Yeah.
Block off some time, get everyone together, start brainstorming,
Yeah.
map out that plan for the next 90 days.
Take action.
Take action. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just do it.
Just get started.
Just get started. And as you're going, use those smart sevens
Yep.
to track that progress, work through challenges, keep that consistent rhythm going.
It's about building those habits,
It-
the long-term stuff.
And celebrate those successes.
Yes, please. Celebrate the wins.
Celebrate. Acknowledge all the hard work.
Yeah.
Focus on the progress that you're making.
Yeah.
And most importantly, enjoy the journey. Building a high-performing team,
It's a big deal.
it is a big deal. It's something to be proud of.
Yeah.
You know, before we wrap up, there's this one thing that Brent talks about that really stuck with me.
Okay.
He talks about embracing being uncomfortable.
Oh, that's interesting. It seems kind of counterintuitive, right? Like we're always told to seek comfort,
Right.
avoid pain.
Stay in your safe space.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess when it comes to building a business, maybe a little discomfort is actually a good thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
His whole point is that growth, real growth, it rarely happens in our comfort zones.
Oh, yeah.
That's when we push ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
When we embrace those challenges, the uncertainty, that's when we unlock our potential.
I get it. It's like working out. You don't build muscle by lifting the same weight every single day. You got to push yourself. You got to challenge yourself to see those results.
Perfect analogy. And it's the same with business.
Okay.
If you want to scale, if you want to achieve those big, ambitious goals, you got to get a little uncomfortable.
You got to be willing to take some risks.
Risks, try new things, fail, learn from those failures, and get back up.
Embrace the messiness of it all.
Yes. And that goes for your team, too, you know?
Okay, yeah.
Create that culture where it's safe to experiment. Challenge those old ways of doing things.
Yeah, be innovative.
Push the boundaries.
But you got to give them support, right?
Oh, absolutely.
To feel safe taking those risks.
Resources, mentorship, you can't just throw them in the deep end and say, swim.
Right. You got to give them some floaties at least.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they can take those leaps knowing that you've got their back.
It's about empowering them to grow and develop both individually and as a team.
Okay, so we're wrapping up this deep dive. You, our listener, you came to us with all these questions about scaling a business.
Right.
Especially the whole high-performing team thing.
Yeah.
And we've covered a lot, right? We've talked about the science behind it all. We've talked about that Smart 90 program, all the practical stuff.
The nuts and bolts.
Yeah, but now it's up to you to take all of this and figure out what works for you.
Make it your own.
Yeah, because there's no one right answer, right?
Nope. No magic formula.
Every business is different. But I think the most important thing we've talked about is intentionality.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Building a high-performing team, it doesn't just happen.
No.
It takes effort. It takes communication. It takes commitment.
Yeah. It's about creating that culture where everybody feels valued, where they feel empowered to do their best.
Absolutely. Be intentional about your leadership. Be intentional about the team, the systems, the processes, all of it.
Be intentional about everything.
Everything. And never lose sight of your why.
Oh, that's so important.
That's what's going to keep you going when things get tough. That's what's going to inspire your team to really reach their full potential.
So to our listener, as you go on this journey, building your team, scaling your business, embrace those uncomfortable moments.
Yes.
Stay curious, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly,
Yes.
have fun.
Have fun.
Building a business should be an adventure. It shouldn't be a drag.
Absolutely.
We're rooting for you. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Thanks for listening.